VikesNow, I am Dustin Baker. We are here on schedule release day. I'm talking with my good friend Nate Porter. How are you, sir? First time on the show. What up?
I'm good, man. It's a pleasure to be on the show. Thanks for having me. I'm pumped to talk Vikings football with you guys.
Let's do it. And how many years have you been a Vikings fan?
My whole life, 25 years. Born into it.
Yeah, you said in the pre-show, you said fourth generation, correct?
Yes. We've passed it on to the fifth generation now. My oldest brother, he has a son who is a huge Vikings fan. He just turned 10 years old now.
Okay.
But yeah, he's loving it. We went to, not last season, but the season before, the Chargers game where Hawkinson had
hmm
that drop in the end zone. I remember seeing his face and the heartbreak in his eyes. And I was like, well, get used to it, my man.
Yep. Oh, I remember that game vividly. It was the one where they gunned it to try to catch him off guard, and if Hawkinson catches it, it's a brilliant decision. If he does what he did, it looks like KLC didn't know what he was doing. So such is
Right.
life. All right, we're going to talk about some off-season stuff. Yannick Eckhart, I think, will join us shortly. The off-season has been robust for the Vikings. They had a just this mountain of cash to spend, and all they spent it. That's for damn sure. They got about 16 million left if they got dudes on their mind in the spring and summer. But to get this thing cracking, my friend, what was your single most favorite off-season addition from these Vikings? Free agency, draft, contract extension? You tell me.
I would have to go with Ryan Kelly for sure. Um, Whenever I saw that Minnesota signed him, I was like, oh, all right. So Bradbury's gone now. We're finished with that era. That project's over. And they just stood firm that we're going to build this line around our young quarterback. And I would love to have a four-time Pro Bowler, a team captain. He's a two-time team captain. So you got to have that leadership. Love to see that. He's never allowed more than 19 pressures in a season, only one season where he allowed more than two sacks. He grades well on PFF, but obviously the cons are the injuries. Out of his 9 seasons, he's only played 3 full years. He's missed 24 games in total. Um, don't want to put injuries against the guy because he's a phenomenal football player. He was the highest paid center when he was with Indianapolis too, so
Mhm.
he's got the good. Same thing with Will Fries. Obviously, people are going to talk about the injury, but he's a stud. And then getting Jackson there as well. I just love that Kwesi and KOC are firm on making sure that this offensive line is the best for JJ McCarthy.
It was really funny after they surrendered their dubious NFL record 9 sacks to the Rams. After the game, you could hear O'Connell was pretty pissed and says that we need to do something about this interior offensive line. And then, like I think at the combine, somebody asked him about like, well, with all these replacements on the offensive line, what do you have in mind? And he said, well, I didn't ever say anything about replacements. I just said we need to get better. But then they ended up replacing all three interior offensive linemen when it was all said and done. I would say
Right.
my single favorite offseason addition is a generalized emphasis on the trenches, offensive and defensive, but it came full circle for me right after Jonathan Allen was signed. It felt like a half hour later. Tom Pelissero tweeted, "The Vikings aren't done yet. They've also signed Javon Hargrave." And I'm telling you, if you've watched this show for the 3.5 years of our existence, we bitch all the time about never having an impact three-tech defensive tackle. They just don't allow it. They say, you know what? We got Jonathan Bullard, Armand Watts. We're going to be fine. And everybody knows that's just mediocre bullshit. But they finally got with the times and then got two veteran defensive tackles. So I'll stress again that I think Yannick Eckhart is going to join us. So I'm going to ask him this question if he eventually logs on here. But in the meantime, kind sir, let's get into some of these summer talkers. I want to ask you this. Give me a summer prediction for the Vikings that is realistic, but also that aren't too many people aren't talking about.
I would have to go with the running back room. I think the roles are going to be switched. I honestly think Jordan Mason will be running back one. Stand firm on that.
Oh
I saw
wow.
the depth chart still has Aaron Jones starting on there, and I'm thinking to this extent, there's going to be possibly three running backs if Trey Stewart pans out. I don't know what Ty Chandler's plan is,
hmm
but Aaron Jones is great whenever it comes to being an extra asset in the pass game. I would love it if we could run shotgun and he runs a little wheel route and he's an extra dump off guy, get him open space. You just don't want to see him keep getting hurt. The injuries last year, he was great at the beginning of the season. You could tell he was getting hurt. And if we can have a running back role where Jordan Mason is that guy, I mean, they didn't draft a running back. They got that UDFA, Trey Stewart, but
hmm
they were standing firm like Mason is our guy. That offseason signing was pretty sweet. I was pretty impressed with that. And I could just see those roles being switched. He'll see Jones more in the pass game, and Jordan Mason will be more of the main guy that we see.
So
I would have to go.
let me clarify or ask for clarification. Are you saying that the first handoff against the Bears, evidently on Monday Night Football in week one, that will go to Jordan Mason, or that by the time we get to October, Mason will have more carries in general?
I would have to say October. I mean,
Okay.
shoot, we might sign Cam Akers by then, so who knows?
They better. Otherwise, we're going to trade for his ass.
Right. But yeah, I definitely see him being that guy. And that's no diss on Aaron Jones. He's a phenomenal running back, but to keep him healthy and where he thrives is in the pass game, I believe. So I think we'll see more of that.
You might recall, I hope pretty vividly, that the Vikings were at their very best in the first 4 or 5 weeks when Aaron Jones was fresh. They were using him like a bell cow. But I think it was against the Jets when everything started to change, where he went from great to just pretty good, like better than what we had in Alexander Madison. So although they signed him to a handsome, deal, 2 years, 20 million, that's pretty spendy for a running back. I do like the idea of conserving him and then using Mason almost equitably, where they both get 50-50. And then who knows with Ty Chandler. My bold take last year about the running back room was that Ty Chandler would end up with more rushing yards than Aaron Jones because I thought Aaron Jones would get hurt. I still think Ty Chandler's a good running back, but because his pass pro is mid, I don't think they really care about him or enjoy playing him, and hence the
Mm-hmm.
Jordan Mason trade. All right, Yannick has said that his Zoom is being goofy, so I don't know if he's going to join us. My bold summer prediction, or one that's realistic, I talked about this on a show and I tweeted about it, is I think the Vikings will trade for a cornerback, and I think it's going to be Tariq Woolen. So here's my thought process here. The Seattle Seahawks have a guy named Josh Jobe, who's an upstart cornerback who played well last year. They have Devin Witherspoon, who's fantastic, and they have Tariq Woolen, who's big and pretty damn good. But they're also hosting Shaq Griffin free agent visits. They had Razul Douglas come there yesterday. I don't know why they need more cornerbacks. But if you peek under the hood, Tariq Woolen's deal, he's from the 2022 draft, I believe, and he's due for an extension. Well, for some reason or another, last December, he got benched for a game, and a reporter asked him about it, and he was pretty critical, like he bitched about it. And so I would say that the Seahawks, compared to how they should, don't really like Woolen as much as you would think for a cornerback who's 6'4". And wouldn't you know it, it always seems like Brian Flores has one cornerback, or he likes to have one cornerback in his roster orbit that is, over 6'2", and Woolen's about as big as you can get. So that's my prediction is the Vikings trade for a cornerback. Otherwise, we're relying on decent maybe solutions and Isaiah Rodgers, who I think they're high on, and Mekhi Blackman, who played good as a rookie but tore his ACL. So my bold prediction, name dropping Reek Woolen as a trade target for these Vikings. Probably can get him for, I would say, a fourth rounder, and it'd probably be one of those deals where like we trade a third rounder and they give us a fifth plus Woolen or something like that. Fine. So on this show, we have Jordan Mason from Skull Porter, Skull Porter, Nate Porter, who thinks Jordan Mason will eventually end up with a larger workload. Sir, name me one under the radar breakout player for the Vikings in 2025.
I have a toss up because one another thing they didn't do was do a huge trade with cornerback or get a guy that they trusted at corner. They're going to stick with the guys that they currently have. So I have a lot of trust in Mekhi Blackman and Theo Jackson to get the job done.
Mm-hmm.
The cool thing about Mekhi Blackman was he was Flores' first pick whenever it came to his first regime with these guys, and we saw that he was a stud at USC. Was it 2022? And then obviously the ACL threw everything off, but they also, if I remember right, they signed Gilmore after the fact whenever Mekhi Blackman was hurt or
Yes.
something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of like, were they already going to make him that guy? So I think they got faith in him, and we'll see he's going to turn around. And Theo Jackson, his contract is pennies compared to what people were wanting to get with different safeties, I think. And if he can come with the same mentality that they use with like Josh Metellus, because obviously he plays all over the field,
Mm-hmm.
and Minnesota plays the three safety thing pretty consistently. And I could see Theo Jackson doing the same thing, put him at middle linebacker, put him at edge, put him at slot corner. And I just think that he's very versatile. And for it's a very team friendly deal. And I just feel like they have faith in their secondary. I'm gonna ride with them on that one. So I would go with Mekhi Blackman is gonna step up, and same thing with Theo Jackson. That's I mean, losing Cam Bynum was obviously heartbreaking, but whenever it comes to the money and what we're going to get out of it, I think that Mekhi Blackman and Theo Jackson will be just fine.
So the CB2 job, I think we would interpret that as up for grabs or at least questionable as of May. Like you don't know for sure if it's going to be Isaiah Rodgers. I guess you'd say probably. Is your breakout player here Mekhi Blackman in that you think he will be on the field against the Bears week one, like as a starter? Or is it more that kind of like the Mason thing by the time we get to November and shit like that, that he'll be more of a contributor?
Definitely by October. The Isaiah Rodgers thing too was a cool signing as well. And I would probably say that he's going to be QB or CB2. I could definitely see that happening by the time week one rolls around. But I don't know. Brian Flores has so many tricks up his sleeve when it comes to these players and putting them in different positions. I could just see Mekhi Blackman coming off and being a stud. And that's nothing against the other cornerbacks in the room. It's just we haven't seen what we got out of Mekhi Blackman yet
Mhm.
because of that torn ACL. So I just think that I don't know. I'm just excited to see what happens with him.
Yeah, Mekhi Blackman, in my opinion, was completely overshadowed as a rookie because Ivan Pace was an utter badass. Ivan Pace was the
Mm-hmm.
guy that undrafted free agency 2023. He identified himself as a guy who was going to be a breakout player, and then Harrison Smith said in the summer, like this guy can ball. We got to September, indeed, Ivan Pace could ball. So everything that he did, it felt like it stole the headlines. And then Mekhi Blackman was pretty solid. Didn't play well against the Bengals that year when everything kind of fell apart. I was there. So I think he got a bum rap. But I'm right there with you that Blackman seems like a guy that they would trust. And you are correct that as the contingency plan when Kyrie Jackson died and Blackman tore his ACL, they went and signed Stephon Gilmore and immediately promoted Shaq Griffin, who had been on the roster since free agency in March. So I like that one. All right, if you, sir, ran the Vikings, general manager Porter, if you could pull off one trade this summer as the general manager, tell me the details of that transaction.
Being an Iowa fan, a pipe dream, it's not going to happen, but it would be cool if we could get another tight end.
Hmm.
I mean, a big name like Kittle or Laporta would be sweet, but it's just not going to happen. But I would love to get a tight end. And I liked on one of the previous episodes, you mentioned Kyle Pitts.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, a fantastic trade idea. He's, because I mean, the guy has obviously not produced what his draft grade said he was going to produce. And whether that's a Falcons thing or whether that's a him thing, whatever, I would love to give him a second chance and just get as many playmakers as possible on this offense. So it'd be cool to get him. If that doesn't happen, I know Michael Meyer from Las Vegas,
Yeah.
24 years young, 70. He had 72 targets, resulting in 48 receptions and 460 yards in 2 seasons. He was a second rounder, but he's playing behind Brock Bowers. So I could see, maybe give them a fifth rounder for the guy. He's still young. He still has something. I think that he would probably be my more realistic trade option, but I would love to see them trade for a tight end. And Gavin Bartholomew, I know that he was a teammate with Jordan Addison back when he was at Pitt, and KOC said on a recent interview that Jordan Addison had high praise for that guy. So not counting him out quite yet, but I would love to see them do something else with tight end.
So I love the Michael Mayer mention because that one, like the Pitts thing from me is more of like a pipe dream. Like, hey, if they're going to trade him, you should be in the sweepstakes. Michael Mayer, that thing is actually realistic because the Raiders did this to themselves. They drafted Mayer in round two of the
Mm-hmm.
2023 NFL draft. And then I don't fault them for it, but they also drafted Brock Bowers round one the following year, which completely demoted Michael Mayer. And so you're wondering, like, all right, well, what are you going to do with Michael Mayer? He's being wasted away. That guy can be obtained for like a really, really low fifth, sixth round draft pick. And you would immediately audition a guy for a TE1 job for some team. Now, with the Vikings, it'd probably realistically be TE2, TE3, but this could be a player that has TE1 upside, like we forecasted leading up to the 2023 draft. So I love that idea mainly because Josh Oliver's contract expires here in, let's see, 8, 9 months. And then all of Hawkinson's guaranteed money is done after this year. So in theory, if they were going to move on, I don't think they will. It'd be
Mhm.
easy to do so. So it's not this big bold take to say, hey, the Vikings are going to trade for a tight end. It would make sense. Now the Kyle Pitts thing, the reason that that is so scintillating is the upside there in an offense that already has all the bells and whistles. And a naysayer to this idea would be like, well, they don't need another tight end. Well, they also didn't need Jordan Mason either. They could have drafted a running
Mhm.
back in round 6 and been fine. They also didn't need Javon Hargrave. They just signed Jonathan Allen and they have Jalen Redmond. So I don't buy the logic of the, well, they don't need another blah, blah, blah. They are showing with this Super Bowl contending roster that they're buying into getting deep and rich. This is what the Eagles do. This is how they won their Super Bowl. So I would keep those tight end ideas in mind. My breakout player, if this is allowed, would be a continuation of Jalen Redmond. Even though you have two new dudes in the house, three if you count Tyrion Ingram Dawkins to steal his job, I think that they still intermix Redmond into the rotation and he'll continue his tackle for loss savant ways. And that would be a guy that I would say don't write off just because there is, more depth in the house. All right, Yannick is not joining us. He can't figure out the tech part. It happens. So, in the spirit of the day, sir, let's talk a little bit more about this schedule. This thing has began to leak. And what we have, I got it all charted here. The first game, oh my goodness, is we think about 90% sure is at the Chicago Bears Monday Night Football. I have a
Yeah.
terrible speech to give about this game, but I want to hear hopefully your objective thoughts about McCarthy and the Vikings Monday Night Football at the Bears to get his career started.
I love it. The spotlight is going to be so huge on that guy. I just, I am going to fully support whoever is under center, regardless if it's Gus Frerotte or, Kirk Cousins, whoever it is, I'm going to praise that guy just because it's Vikings quarterback. And whenever Minnesota drafted him, I was so excited. And the amount of upset that this guy has, his Zen-like mentality. I know, like, we've heard it in nauseum about this guy, about all the good stuff, and we haven't really seen him play on the field yet, besides that one short stint in the preseason. But they, I'm sure we've all seen the VR thing that's been very popular recently with Jaden
Mhm.
Daniels and him. It's the technology with these guys is going to make them better as well. And I don't know, how can you not like the guy? I just think that whenever it comes to Monday Night Football against Chicago, I think it's a winnable game, and I just can't wait to see him be a leader. I'm not gonna go crazy and say he's gonna be the first quarterback to lift a Lombardi this season, but I'm gonna definitely be behind him and think that he has the potential to do that. So, yeah, I think that it's gonna be a fun Monday Night Football game.
Here is my contrarian approach for the show. So I've been a Vikings fan since 1996, coming up on 30 years, and every time, and I've been married or I've been together with my wife for over 10 years, and every year we sit down on the couch for Vikings at Bears Soldier Field, and I tell her like I hate this game because it's going to be sloppy and it's not going to be a good reflection on the Vikings, whether they're good or bad. And so, for the one game that makes me roll my eyes every year, and this is the Vikings' fault, by the way, because it's just bad voodoo that happens at that stadium. They always play down. I just don't like that after that game, win, lose, or draw. We're gonna have no way of knowing if McCarthy played like a rookie. If it's on its usual bullshit at Soldier Field where it's like, hey, it's 13-9 and the quarterback had 120 yards. Like, we're not going to know if that was McCarthy being a rookie or if that was just typical because it was Soldier Field. And the Vikings could end up being like, 14-3 again, or I think worst case scenario 9-8, 10-7. But you're not going to know a
Mm-hmm.
damn thing after the Bears game because they never play like they truly are at that field. That was my one beef. The credible rumors before today were saying it was going to be against the Lions. I'd rather play them because at least going to Ford Field, like usually the Vikings are really good there, and then the Lions went and got all good. So I respect your take. It's a lot more rosy. I sound like the old boomer who's like just disgruntled about it in general. But yeah, it rubs me the wrong way that the one game that I'm like really Soldier Field is where McCarthy hits.
Mm-hmm.
But let's pivot into a more optimistic one. I love the idea of the Vikings playing at Ireland, at England in back-to-back weeks. I don't think the NFL world has figured out the hack yet that you can have two quasi home games if you have the fan
Oh
base.
yeah.
And so tell me your thoughts on the first ever team to play back-to-back games in different international countries.
I was at first a little concerned. I was like, is there going to be a jet lag thing? Do they have to fly back to Minnesota and then go back to it? So I'm curious how they're going to do the whole thing if they're going to spend, 2 weeks over there. But it's kind of a nice feeling knowing that Minnesota doesn't have to go to Pittsburgh, doesn't have to go to
Mhm.
Cleveland. The fact that, and I think Minnesota as a fan base is popular. I don't know about worldwide or anything, but I think that a lot of people love Justin Jefferson. So there's going to be a lot of people that are going to cheer for him just for that sole reason. And whenever it comes to those international games, Minnesota's undefeated. How can you not love that? I still remember the 2013 Matt Tassel game against Pittsburgh
Mhm.
whenever they won. Like they have very good luck internationally, and I'm excited to see. But back to back is pretty insane. But I'm just curious how they're gonna have that schedule with those guys and how they're gonna format it. But I think it's cool. They get two games that are not in enemy territory, so I like that.
Yeah, I'm pretty darn sure they'll just stay over there for that week. I think it'd be
Mm-hmm.
counterproductive to fly back. So, in
Right.
essence, for the Vikings, you have 8 true home games, 7 true road games, and then 2 quasi home games if you trust the Dublin crowd. And we already know the London
Mm-hmm.
crowd is spoken for because they're playing the Browns, who they beat in 2017. Yeah, I like this arrangement mainly because I like change. I like try new stuff, and I think it's cool that the Vikings will be the team they'll either feast or famine with trying to
Mm-hmm.
get this advantage. A couple other things that we know. Let's see. JJ McCarthy versus Jim Harbaugh, week 8 at the Chargers. It'll be back to back Thursday night games at Los Angeles. Last year, the Vikings had the face mask game, the Darisaw injury game. But we know Harbaugh loves McCarthy. But let's chat about the almost confirmed Christmas night game for the Vikings, who will host the Lion. What's your knee jerk reaction to that? Christmas night, Lions at Vikings.
I love it. Any late season game that's in Minnesota that's divisional might just feel way better. It's like what you were saying about playing in Soldier Field. I get this weird feeling when it's later in the season and they have to go to Lambeau
Yeah.
or something along those lines. It's like my heart can't take it sometimes, and I just feel way better when it's later than they're playing at home. Because you play at US Bank, it's the fans out there are definitely going to be favorable for us. Minnesota just knows how to win home games, I feel like. And if it's a division game on Christmas that late in the season, it's probably going to have playoff implications, obviously. So I'm happy it's in Minnesota. And like I was telling you earlier, I like getting the road division games out of the way just to get it out of the way so we don't have to deal with it. And I don't have to have that same feeling that I usually have later in the season when they have to go to Green Bay, go to Chicago, go to Detroit.
Yeah, the Vikings went through a onslaught of holiday games within, let's see, 2020, 2021. And when you have young kids like I do, it makes your wife roll her eyes when you're like, "Hey, they got a Thanksgiving night game. We're gonna skip Thanksgiving, aren't we?" So initially when I saw this, I was like, "Oofda." But in my house, my son is 8, my daughter's 14. We do Christmas gifts in the morning, like, as soon as everybody wakes up. Therefore, this one shouldn't really put us out too much. We have the friends and family celebration on Christmas Eve, and then Christmas Day is all about unwrapping the presents with the tree and all that. And then we can saddle up and leave around noon or whatever and get there in time. So I don't have any beef with this. And aside from the mere fact they're playing on Christmas, if the Vikings are good again, this is going to be a ginormous game because if we assume they're going to have a winning record and the Lions don't have a letdown season, this will have implications for the NFC North once again, unless there's just a bunch of factors that we're not even thinking about right now where one of the teams isn't good. Let's see. I'm trying to figure out what else I want to ask you before we head out. All right, let's do this. We think we have the main pieces of a roster. If they make any final trades, that would be great. But right now, as a win-loss record, what do you have in mind? Are you resting on, well, it's a rookie quarterback, who knows, 9-8 would be great, or are you gonna pump it up higher and say, hey, if Sam Darnold could do 14-3, everybody can?
Yeah, that's the same thing with KOC, the quarterback whisperer. The guy in his tenure has won. many games. I feel like with all of the bullshit he's had to deal with, still went 7-10 with all those different quarterbacks. I still think that's impressive. And 13 win season, 14 win season. The guy just knows how to win football games. And JJ McCarthy has that same mentality. So I think I saw the books as Minnesota at, I could say 8.5
Hmm.
over under on that. So I would definitely go with the over. I would say that they're going to get more than 9. Um, Granted, we'll see how the season plays out. I know they have some tough opponents, but I trust this team. I'm always going to be the optimistic Vikings fan every single time that I see a game. I just think that there's a way that they're going to win it, and I could see them definitely going over 9 games, even with the question at quarterback if he's good or not. And if that's the only question that Minnesota has,
Yeah.
I'm a happy Vikings fan. Like I'm excited to see how this guy goes. It's going to be. I'm happy for the JJ McCarthy era. I'm ready for it.
Throughout the last several months, especially in the offseason, when I talk to Vikings fans or even folks who ask me about McCarthy, they always give me this breaking news. They're like, "Well, first round draft picks don't always work out, right?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm well aware of that, my friend. About half of them, in fact, don't live up to the billing." But I reply
Uh,
to them, I know JJ McCarthy is going to be good. Like, it's not a matter of, oh my, like, if this was Mike Zimmer's quarterback selection, I would be right there with the entire camp thinking, I don't know. Who knows if he
right,
swung and missed? But here's my speech on McCarthy. Why I know that he's going to be at least as good as Brock Purdy is, do we really think that the one guy who's been labeled and nominated as the single quarterback whisperer in the NFL, Kevin O'Connell, do we really think he used 3 off seasons to plot his strategy at quarterback? And then the one time he messes up on a quarterback is the guy that's going to really determine if he has a long-term future as a head coach in the NFL. To me, there is no way that Kevin O'Connell, as the quarterback whisperer, who can win games with Josh Dobbs and Nick Mullins at times, if they're going to put that much faith and tedious thought process into who they want to lead the franchise, I don't think it's congruent to believe that the quarterback whisperer is going to swing and miss on the quarterback. Now, if it would have been some fifth round flyer, I'd be like, yeah, who knows? Like Jaron Hall, I'd be like, yeah, I don't think that'll ever work out.
right.
But when you have a staff that has, carefully competitively rebuilt this team and then went to the draft and said, all right, we're gonna use the pick on McCarthy, at the very, very least, he's going to be a guy who throws 22 touchdowns and 3,500 passing yards. But that's like if he sucks, in my estimation. So I'm very confident with the infrastructure that you pointed out. Like, we don't even talk about the fact the Vikings defense ranked second in the NFL per EPA per play and DVOA. We don't talk about that anymore. It's old news. And so it went and got better, the defense on top of that. And then they used their third round pick on a wide receiver to get juicier on offense. So I don't think that they're gonna win the Super Bowl this year, but I do think that they have the gumption to get to at least 10-7 and get a wild card spot. It all depends on how they navigate the schedule. Last year at this time on this very show, we'd look at the schedule and be like, well, there's no way they're beating the 49ers or Texans. So they're going to start the season about 1-3 at best and then get better after that. No, they went undefeated to start the season. So if they handle the schedule like that, I think we'll be in good hands. All right, my friend.
Right.
Any closing arguments before we log off for the afternoon?
Um, I would whenever you were talking about single most favorite offseason addition, the other ones that I had on there was the entire defense, plain and simple. And
Yeah.
then
Mhm.
the other one was Ty Felton. I One of the things that got me was the last game against Detroit, whenever they went practically over 4 in the red zone and they couldn't score in the freaking red zone. I saw a stat that 8 out of the 9 touchdowns that Ty Felton had in Maryland were all in the red zone. And I was like, oh, that's pretty intriguing because I saw Minnesota went 34 for 61 last year, and that
Mhm.
ranked 19th in the NFL. Like, holy shnikes. I think that there's a point where like Baltimore, they got 49 out of 66. 74% of the time they're in the red zone, they scored a touchdown. Like Minnesota could get numbers like that too. They'd be unstoppable. And I'm glad that they got someone like Ty Felton to do that. And potential returner, we'll see about that. I would love to go back to the Cordero Patterson, Marcus Sherrill's days when Minnesota was an actual threat on special teams. That would be
Mhm.
fantastic if they could bring that back. Plus, with Jalen Naylor being on a contract year, I would love to keep Naylor, but if he could get more money elsewhere, I don't blame him. And then Minnesota already fills that spot. And with the Jordan Addison suspension happening, probably, that'll be good extra time for Felton to get in there. And I think that he'll be a great addition. I'm excited for him.
I'm glad you brought up Addison, because I want to mention this before we definitively log off. Yeah, this thing's actually going to trial. It sounds like every update for Jordan Madison you ever see over the last 6 months is all right. They got a thing scheduled for 2 months from now. Well, it's actually going to trial, and usually if you get popped for driving drunk, you don't bother with a trial. Like you can't really wiggle out of a breathalyzer. So it leads me to believe that perhaps this was a marijuana thing. I don't know, but it's just really kind of weird that a DUI thing would go to trial. So I'm with you that it'll probably end up as a suspension, and rightfully so if that's what he did. But it's really strange that this thing hasn't been pleaded down. If he is suspended, they do have Ty Felton in the house, and Jalen Naylor looked mostly good in stretches, and then Rondale Moore is also on this team.
Oh yeah, yep,
Yep.
Rondell Moore for sure.
All right, my man, I appreciate it. You should hit my line and join us more frequently, okay?
Sounds good. All right, school bikes.
Yeah, take it easy.